Welcome to Self-Centered Truth, where we are here to help you find your missing piece, your centered truth,
your wholeness, and remembering your innate connection to God. Welcome today. Today's going to be an amazing episode. We're going to be talking about the trenches today. Some really hard trenches. I've been crying all morning because I felt the energy of it come through, and I'm like, whoa. That's a big one today. Okay, so what are we talking about today?
We are going to be talking about fear and also worthiness.
Yeah.
That's tied to fear.
That's a powerful one. I mean, fear
Super
itself is literally one of the most debilitating
debilitating
things to overcome for our alignment and our empowerment with God.
Yeah.
Fear is the biggest, I think.
It's one of the biggest tools that the low vibrational frequency can use to get to us, to stop us, to get us to throw us out of alignment, to keep us from not progressing forward. Fear keeps us stagnant and still and keeps us from moving forward.
Yeah. So tell me, what ways... Well, let's go back to, okay, if fear runs the planet intentionally, why?
To keep us spinning, to keep us from progressing, to keep us from finding our power. And fear looks like so many different things. For me, fear is paralyzing. It comes in as worry. Worry is huge. And I actually didn't understand that before. I thought I was worrying because I just wanted the best. You know what I mean? For my family, for my children, for my friends, for, but then when you realize the underlying part of worry
so many
is
parts of
just
fear.
all fear.
Yeah. It's like, it's kind of like morning glory. We have this weed in our desert that's called morning glory. And you can pull one and there's like 20,000 other tendrils that are linked and going other places. Fear is like that. Fear is like this nest that has 75 offshoots in each direction that just reconnect somewhere else. Fear is really a powerful tool, a powerful tool to disrupt our field.
Yeah.
I think fear itself, I mean, we talk about fear. It's a very common concept, but we don't understand from the perspective of God what fear actually does to us, what it's doing. I mean, we feel fear. Yes, it freezes us. It plays mind games. It does all of those things. But what it actually is doing is disconnecting you from God. And it's no wonder that the entire world runs on fear. We have all of the different layers and levels that are in society, are in our planetary storyline. We've got politics, we've got religion, we've got money, we've got poverty, we've got slavery, we've got, there's just so many different ways that fear infiltrates on every level of our planet.
I let it disrupt me as a mom. I fed into that fear and worry. Just, is my car clean? Are my kids dressed nice? Are we sitting on the front row in church? Do we look good? Do we, and instead of living in the present moment, I was letting that fear get in the way and control my every thought, my every it was just, so I just let fear really run my life for a long time.
But we don't realize it's running.
That's what, I knew what fear was, but I didn't understand it to the depth that I do now.
Yeah. Fear to me is like a hamster wheel. And you get off and you think that you're like in control of your emotions, or you can reason through the fear aspects. And then the next thing you know, you're on the treadmill, running that fear story again. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I was back in fear. I'm in it again. And so you like back off and you do all the things again. And then 2 minutes later, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm worrying about my child, or I'm worrying about a situation that I can't control. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What does this look like? And you just repeat all the scenarios over and over again. And that's called a spiritual hook.
Yeah.
And those hooks are in everything. And it's an awareness of knowing your peace and what that feels like and what your connection to God feels like versus when you have a hook in you. And a hook can be a running program that you just keep coming back to, like fear, for instance. These are all tools that we're trying to share with you because we've been through some of these things, and it's really, it's a hard situation to navigate through when you're in the middle of fear because you're blind. You don't see it because you're so hijacked by fear.
Yeah. I have to admit that after a few days ago, we'd finished an episode and I left sobbing, just feeling so much fear and feeling so unworthy. Like, can I do this project? What am I going to contribute to this project? Who am I? Am I, worth it? And so it's just, I let that control me. I let it spin me out of control until I could quiet down, get back to my center, and tap into my connection. Because all that emotional spin out was just me being disconnected, trying to get me to stop doing this project with you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I let fear in every day. It's a constant practice.
It's a vigilance that requires awareness. And it's like, it's a leveling up to be willing to see fear as a story that's trying to spin you.
Yeah.
Because that's the key. It's like, we all have these experiences in life that are difficult and that navigating isn't automatic. Sometimes it's like walking through a blind snowstorm and we can't really see what the destination is, what the end of the road is, what that looks like. And when we're holding that fear frequency, and it's a frequency, I mean, you think about it. So we all have these aspects of fear within us. And it's part of the human nature to have these fear. It's part of the physical body embodiment. We have to break through these stories. When we come down to this planet by birth, we enter into this veil of stories that we have decided we're going to learn to break through. And fear is one of them. And so when we come down and fear activates within us, we don't realize that it's just a story. We think it's real and it's consuming and it's going to bury us and destroy us. And this is so hard. Fear holds us back from our connection to God because you can't hold the frequency of fear and the frequency of God at the same time. It doesn't work. You can't. It's just like in religious dialogue, they say you can't serve two masters. But it's actually true. You can't hold the frequency of peace and God and hold the frequency of fear at the same time. It doesn't work. So eventually, you either have to choose to let go of fear and stay with God, or you let go of God and let fear consume you. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And you have to go through it. we have to go through the fear
Yeah.
to make it out on the other
To
side.
master it. We have to. Fear is a lesson that we came to learn. It helps us gain knowledge.
Yeah.
And knowledge about ourselves, about what our truth actually is. I think it was 5 years ago or so. I was laying in bed and I was watching TV with Chance. And I heard this voice. And I said, "You have breast lumps." And I was like, "What?" So I'm like searching around. I'm like, it was huge. It was huge. And I was like, "Chance, come here and tell me if you feel this." And he's like, "Yeah, there's something there. We need to go in." And Spirit was like, the way Spirit worded it to me was what got my attention, because it wasn't a way that I would ever think of wording anything myself. It was like, "You have breast lumps. Don't." It was something like post haste. Go into the doctor post haste. And I'm like, post haste? What does that even mean? And it was like, don't dilly dally around. Go in.
Go now.
And so COVID was just finishing up. We still had about maybe 5 or 6 months left of the COVID isolation and mask, and you couldn't go into the hospital if you weren't the one being seen. And so I went to my local doctor, who I absolutely love. And I said, "Okay, listen, I heard this voice. I found this lump." And he's like, "Let me make some calls." So he makes his phone calls, and within 2 weeks, I was in the hospital getting a double mastectomy. And I remember when I was sitting in the room just having my mammogram, and the, what are they called? X-ray technician? Mammogram? Radiologist?
Yeah.
I don't, whoever it is, sorry. I don't know what your name was or your technical term, your title, but he came in and he's like, "I'm not going to mince words with you. I am 99% sure you have breast cancer." And I was like so shocked at the time that I just didn't even know how to process. And then they took us in the side room. And the side rooms are never good rooms.
Extra quiet room is not getting good news.
And our lives changed that day. When we walked out of the hospital, we both knew that everything that was before that point would never look the same. And it ended up being a late stage 3 breast cancer. And it was terrifying. And I remember at one point I had to decide, am I going to live or am I going to die? And it was my choice. And I'm not saying it's everybody's choice. I'm saying for me and my experience, God was letting me decide which way I wanted to go. And so I chose to stay because I had 6 kids. I didn't want to leave my husband and my kids to do this without me. I wanted to stay. And that, I think, was the very first part of me taking control of my fear. Because when you are going through cancer, you don't hear a ton of success stories. You hear a lot of fear stories, and you hear a lot of defeat stories. And it's a hard thing to be in the field of frequencies when you're aware of these frequencies. And you can feel the frequencies because when you have God awarenesses, you're very sensitive to the feels. And so when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, it put me in the collective field of breast cancer. And so I had my own fear and my own physical sickness to work through and my own mental stories to work through. But I also was experiencing the collective of cancer. And I could feel the fear that was just there all the time, the fear and the hopelessness. And I really think that the reason why I went through it with the abilities that I have or the awarenesses that I have was so I can tell the rest of the world that you don't have to live in fear. And you don't have to accept that fear is just what you have to hold, because you don't. You can let go. And I think that for me, learning how to release the fear by my breath, of just reconnecting to my breath. Because, one day I went into my oncologist and he said to me, well, we're going to do this method with this, and we're going to do radiation for 8 months, and we're going to do chemotherapy, red devil, for a year. And you'll come in every other week for treatments, and it will take anywhere between 3 hours and 6 hours, something like that. I've kind of blocked a little bit of it out. And so he has this protocol, and I was like, okay, all right, that's fine. Well, then what? If that doesn't work, then what? He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean, then what? That's it. And that hit me so incredibly hard. Because I had to face the worst fear of my life, that I might die. And I might not be there for my kids and my husband. But what it was actually teaching me is that I can just grab hold of God and let everything else go. I didn't realize it at the time. It took me a year to realize we don't have to hold on to these battles. We can just surrender them to God. And I know that it doesn't seem like it makes sense. Because when we go through fear, it's so debilitating and it's so heavy and it's so blinding. But every day we make a choice to connect and hold fear as our entertainment, or to connect and hold God and to call God in. And whether you have cancer, or whether you have another terminal illness, or whether you have a different fear of being looked at, because the cameras, that was a huge fear.
This is a huge fear, right?
Huge. Whatever the fear is, you have a choice. You have a choice of you can either entertain the fear as your reality, or you can choose to shift your focus, just like Peter did when he saw Christ out on the water. You can look at Christ and everything else can just disappear from your view, or you can look everywhere else and Christ will disappear from your view. And that's really what it comes down to. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it has to be perfect, because it's a choice every day that we get to make, and it's okay to be in struggle, and it's okay to have grief, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to be angry in all of those aspects.
Because while Danielle was dealing with cancer, I was living in my fear of losing my best friend. And I had no control of making it better or any way to fix it. I remember getting in my car and driving and just screaming at God. I was just so angry because I grew up with 4 brothers who I loved but teased and tormented the heck out of me. And when I found Danielle, she's like my sister. And when your best friend comes over and sits down on your couch and tells you news that will forever change your life, I wanted to say all the right things, and I had no words. I wanted to support her the best I could, but I was paralyzed. I let fear take over. But I also remembered that I could lean on God, that I could lean on the divine. And so it was really hard during COVID, because it wasn't like when you hear other stories or you see people going through cancer. I couldn't go to the hospital with you and sit with you. I was afraid to death to even come visit you, because it was like, what if, I heard my kid coughing. What if there's something? Like, everything was lived in fear of, if I come visit my best friend, what if my sickness, what if I bring her sickness? And so, it
was very quiet. It was a very quiet time.
It was.
It was and it wasn't just me that went through it, and it wasn't just you that went through it. The entire planet went through some form of something similar to what cancer was. We all went through the fear, and many of us lost loved ones during that time. And that's a whole different heartache. So we've all gone through these really difficult things. And every day we have the choice of what we want to connect to. You can connect to God through your heartbeat, because that's really all we have. That's the only thing that's promised in this now moment in the quantum field is present. That's it. So when we have these aspects of fear that come up, and they will come up, they're meant to come up because they're teaching us and they're refining us. And it's not that God doesn't love you. It's quite the opposite. It's because God loves you. And I can say that because before I was diagnosed with cancer, I hated myself. I could not find love for myself. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't think I was worthy of it. And there was one night I looked in the mirror and I was so angry at myself and I hated myself. And I was looking in the mirror and I was just telling myself how much I hated myself. And maybe you feel that way too. Maybe you just maybe you don't love yourself. I've been there. We know how that feels. And in that moment of looking in the mirror and telling myself that I hated myself, I asked God to help me learn to love myself. Isn't that ironic? I look at it now and I was like, whoa. I asked God sincerely, please help me to learn to love myself. And in that moment, and I can't explain it, there were particles of matter that heard. And these particles of matter answered the call that I had asked for. They had purpose. These cancer cells within me is how I asked to learn to love myself the way God loves me, because I didn't know how to do that. And the night before I had my double mastectomy, I was in the bathtub and I was saying goodbye to my breasts, my femininity, and I felt so vulnerable. And you shouldn't Google things when you have something like that coming up.
You're like, just
don't look at anything, because I looked because I wanted to prepare myself for what it would be. And I said goodbye to those parts of my body that had nurtured my babies. And I sat in the bathtub and I just held myself from crying. And I had to face the fact that I was not going to live this thing. And that hopefully I would get to be an amputee survivor. Because in the field of cancer, not everybody gets that opportunity. Some of us have to just move on, and that's okay. Because God's got all of it. We don't always understand everything, but I know that God is a loving God. And I know that there is purpose in trial. And I know that when you have an experience that helps you to grow, you don't ever regret the growth. You would go through it again because you've learned who you are. And that's what cancer was for me. When I laid in bed for a year and I couldn't help cook dinner, I couldn't clean the house. My husband had our company. He had a grandson that we helped with. He had dinners to cook. He had the house to clean. And he did all of it. While I laid in bed and just turned from side to side, because that's all I could do. One morning, I woke up and I heard God in feminine form singing me a song. Be with me, 'tis even tight. At the time, that was the language that I knew. And you can Google the words. I think it's called "'Tis Even Tight." I don't know. Something. I can't remember. Something. It's a church hymn. At that time, that's where I was, and that's where God met me. And towards the end of my journey, God met me in different ways, and God helped me heal in different ways. And I guess why I'm telling you this is because sometimes fear will come at us and we don't have control over it. The illusion is that we think we need to have control over it. We don't. The real control and the real empowerment comes when we let go and we let God.
Yeah, thank you. So we would like to give you a couple of tools to help you be able to release that fear, because we all have it. And some of you might be like, okay, great. Well, help me do that. How can we do that? One way that I do to release fear when I'm in fear is I will first just sit quietly. I'll go to my heartbeat. I get centered. I'll call in my angels. I actually have just in meditation kind of set up this golden ball of light, and I'll ask my angels to bring forward my golden ball of light. And whatever the fear is that I'm holding on to, or, I mean, this golden ball can work for so many things. Whatever you need to surrender. Yeah, whatever you need to surrender, whatever you need to release. And I will, with my breath, I will breathe out all of the worry, all of the fear, all of the frustration, whatever it is, into this golden ball. And sometimes takes 2 minutes. Sometimes it might be 10 minutes of breathing and processing and releasing it all. And sometimes it'll be multiple times releasing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I know that will pull me out of those paralyzing moments, those super, super low down moments. And I just release it and I ask my angels to take it away. And using that connectivity of the breath and that center just helps release it and get rid of that.
Yeah. There are so many angelic beings in the angelic liberated realm that are waiting to help us, that are waiting and wanting to serve.
They're waiting for us to just ask. And I didn't think I realized that before, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. One thing that it took me a long time to realize is if you want help, do some homework. Read about a saint. Read about an angel. Because when you have the knowledge of who they are, guess what? They come.
They come in.
They come in because they're your friends and they love you.
Yeah.
And I promise you, if you don't believe me, try it for yourself because Padre Pio was the first saint that I learned about. And I didn't even, I didn't even know what a saint was. And so when I learned about Padre Pio and how selfless and how devoted he was to God and how he had deep struggles. And when I read about him and learned who he was, I could call him in and I could feel him come in and I knew that he was there. If you need support, look up holy angels, look up holy saints, do some homework so you can call them in because they want to help you and they're a huge resource to help you bring peace and to hold space. And I had many angels when I was really sick and they would come in and they would clear all of my medicine before it was given to me. So I would have the least amount of side effects possible. There were angels that would sit and guard me all night because I was weak and susceptible. And they would literally stand over my bed all night. And I would wake up and they would still be there. That was so humbling to me. The angelic realm and the God realm is real. The world tells you it's not. I'm telling you, it is.
It's there.
It's there. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's why we're here. Because I cannot deny who God is. I will not deny who God is. I will not deny who I know and who I love. And when we were kind of like pushed into doing this podcast, I was like, my biggest fear is being looked at. I don't like being looked at. It freaks me out. It's all of those insecure parts within me that I've worked through, but still it's not comfortable for me to be looked at because in my mind I'm thinking, they think I'm ugly. They think something's wrong with me. And I knew today was going to be a heavy episode because when I got up and I got dressed, when you're a cancer survivor of breast cancer and you have implants put in afterwards, if you're lucky enough to be in that small category where it's successful, which I was lucky to be able to have a successful outcome with that surgery. Not everybody does. A lot of people have severe disfigurement and it's just part of, and I personally think that's like, it just makes them more strong in my eyes. It's not, I don't look at it as a negative thing, like, wow, something's wrong. But as a survivor myself, I worry about what people think. I don't know why. It's just the dumbest thing, but it is what it is. And so when I put my shirt on this morning, I'm outing myself.
I'm outing myself.
You see the 6'7"? That was what scared me so bad. And so I got athletic tape, the sports tape that you use for sprains or support.
Mm-hmm.
And I taped this whole side up so it hung the same way.
So the boobies hung straight.
And then the tape just started coming off. And I'm like, no! Because I don't have like a sleeveless bra.
Mm-hmm.
And so Chance could tell I was starting to get upset. And I was like, honey, I just need a minute alone. That is as dumb as it is one of my biggest fears. People are going to see that I'm not balanced. There's a lot of layers to fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like an onion.
Mm-hmm.
When you think you've cleared one, oh, wait, there's a layer underneath it. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, because the deeper we go, I'm here to tell you, the deeper we go into addressing our fear, the deeper we can go into the depths of God and love and peace. That's my purpose in this today. You can survive. And if you don't survive, you can still survive, because your spirit goes on and doesn't just disappear. Mm-hmm. You go back to God. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing better than that. Mm-hmm. And if you get to stay, you can learn more about yourself, and you can learn how to really love yourself while your spouse is in the kitchen and at work and doing all of the things that you can't contribute to. Mm-hmm. You can still learn you have innate worth, because you're laying in bed and you can't do one other thing. And God can tell you, I still love you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to perform. You don't have to do the dance. You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to be a certain way. I love you. Mm-hmm. And that is what we're here for. Mm-hmm. We're here to tell you it's okay. We love you, and God loves you.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us on Self-Centered Truth. We want you to always remember that you matter. You matter to us.
And most importantly, you matter to God. Remember, when the heart settles, the mind settles, and the door to God can open. Now, comment below your claim. This is your claim for today. I claim. You can say by yes, or you can say I claim this, whatever it is that resonates for you. I release my fear to God. I am held. I surrender my fear. And you can do this every day. You can do it 50 times a day. When I had cancer, I think I probably did it like 75 to 150 times a day. And I'm not even kidding you. It was a constant breath by breath. And that's okay, because breath by breath, you will still get an increase of God if you surrender. Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.